Welcome back to a massive week of World of Warcraft news. For we have got big news for the Burning Crusade. We've got a new ex-Blizzard studio, yet more patch 9.1 features, and just so much more to tell you, including things like character progression in 9.1, like what you'll actually be doing on your character. And by the way, if you would like to progress your IRL character, also known as yourself, with some delicious accoutrements, such as the glaive pin, then hey, you can check out the Patreon, and there's legit, there's big stuff going on there soon. Okay, right, news, let's go. Just a quick note here, I'm recording this video a bit late because I ended up feeling sick last night. I do not want to put John, who'll be editing this, under like big time stress or anything, so this will be a very quickly edited video, so feel free to do it as like an audio experience. But okay, let's get into the news. The cloning service is now down to $15, or £12 sterling. Yes, it's no longer 35 bucks. That is good. But I'm going to say something here. Like, you can read Blizzard's own post on this. I don't really recommend doing so. It's not relevant, right? Because, you know what it is? PR speak, you know? That is what it is. Because you look at all the stuff there and you're like, okay, but why did you change the price? Look, it's pretty obvious, everyone. 35 bucks is what they launched with because it's what they wanted to sell, right? They wanted to get away with it if they could. This is not a case of them being good and nice and caring and listening to the community. No, screw that. This is a case of them getting caught on their bullshit and being called out. More likely, there are almost certainly voices internally at Blizzard who would perhaps agree with us, the players. And what happens, and this is what's core for you guys to understand, what happens when we actually let them know what we think is we give the people internally at the company the ammunition, the backup, to actually make their arguments and be able to say, hey, I'm advocating for this. By the way, look at the community. They actually agree. That is what is important. So all those people whose response to this was, oh, it's just a business. Businesses are going to go and make money. I don't care. It doesn't impact me. Guess what? You're kind of just being a useful corporate patsy, right? Kind of like a useful idiot. That's the situation there. You know, I mean, if all you're doing is being convenient and being useful to a big corporate entity, I mean, come on, right? And that is the thing. Love the developers, love the art, love the work, love the game. Yes, but don't love the company. And we would have been saying something different 15 years ago, but now, no. This solution came from people speaking with their voice and telling Blizzard to stuff it. So well done, everyone. You stuck to your guns, and look what happened. Okay, before we get into the Warcraft news then, there is one little thing to note, and that is Lightforged. Yes, Lightforged are a new ex-Blizzard studio founded by, I think, Matt Schlambari, he was at Epic for a bit, but he was at I think he was on WoW, but he was at Blizzard for a good while. And the company is staffed by Blizzard Entertainment and Epic Games people. They seemingly are making some sort of role-playing game, I guess, sort of creation tool game thing. It almost seems to me like they're really trying to make something cool with the recent resurgence of D&D. So, seems really neat. And of course, Dreamhaven are actually backing them. So, there you go. The Morheims are involved too. So, GG to Lightforge. I wish them the best. Excited to see what they've got going on. And with that said, let's get into the World of Warcraft business for today. Archivist Ro-Sur is a new NPC in Korthia. Now, he's a new NPC who has got zone-wide upgrades, mod-touched gear, random conduit upgrades, new sockets. Can't do 4 fingers at once. And an all-new currency called Catalog Research that is tied into a new reputation called the Archivist's Codex. There's a lot going on here. First up, mod-touched gear. So we kind of covered it last week, and now we know that in order to upgrade it past certain item level thresholds, you not only need the required reputation and renown level, but also a one-time purchasable upgrade item from this archivist vendor, and that is something that costs between 4,000 and 8,000 of this new currency. So yeah, on top of the actual price to upgrade each individual piece of gear, you seemingly need to pay a one-time fee for, unlocking each item level breakpoint. Which I don't know. I suppose, is it steep? Is it not? Until we know what the balancing feels like, we just don't know. Now there's the other thing. Random conduit upgrades. They're coming back, boys. This time it's from the Archivist vendor, as opposed to Venari, who I suppose is done, rinsing us for an entire season. So they currently cost 3,000 catalogued research, and they require tier 6 research level. That research level seems to basically just be the reputation. So these items will upgrade a random conduit among your lowest item level ones to an item level of 252. So, look, that it's not just tiny, tiny, tiny increments and taking you loads of time, that is really good. But I honestly don't know why they felt like they needed to do another goddamn slot machine. Come on, what are you doing? I mean, is this a gacha game where I go to the NPC and, I put my money in and instead of conduit upgrades, I get random anime girls? Is that what's going on here? The feedback was near universally negative on the Stygia lottery for conduits, right? Right? Am I losing my marbles? Are my marbles firmly lost? Additionally, then also, socket upgrades are returning from this new Archivist vendor as well, and they cost 5,000 catalog research and require tier 6 research level to buy, and funny enough, when you use them, they will add a socket to helms, necks, bracers, belts, and rings. So, there's no change in what gear slots you can actually add a socket to. But yeah, with the conduits, that's what they're doing, to which I would basically just say, stuff that. Right, BLIZZ, WoW team. Easy. Easy, boys. It's easy. Easy, my dudes. Easy. Just drop a conduit upgrade item from content, such as raids and such as dungeons, and then maybe even sell those upgrades for things like Valor Points and Conquest. Something that would actually respect the player's time, where they could progress their character via the content that they want to do, instead of being, hoodwinked into doing everything, right? Because maybe you shouldn't be going to Korthia to just get that stuff for your character so you can go back to raiding. Maybe you should be going to Korthia because you're excited about going to the lost city of, all the cool stuff, and the lore and the fantasy. Anyhow, the new zone ride upgrades are also a thing from this NPC, and you know what, I'm actually quite pro something like this. Sort of. They generally allow you to earn more catalog research, Stygia, and relic fragments from the Maw and Korthia, but there's also 2 other items that are relating to the Shadowlands as a whole. And I really like what Blizzard is doing here, in principle. So one of them increases the anima you earn from world quests and rares, and the other one grants the ability to find relics from world quests and rares, which award reputation with the Shadowlands factions. So when it's a situation where those upgrades are kind of like just buffs to what you get, I'm not super into that. But I will say, being able to get overall character power within zones and areas, almost like some of the zone-based masteries in Guild Wars 2, I feel like that could be a pretty good path for World of Warcraft to go on with how they currently do a bunch of their open world content. So there's interesting potential there. Maybe it'll be, sort of done better in the future, but actually interesting design area. Okay, lastly, they're adding in items that allow you to, and this is the one that I do like, repair ancient teleporter pads that are located around Korthia. And these will give you access to hidden vaults and remote locations, which seems quite cool, doesn't it? And there's actually another item that will let you enter rift portals in Korthia and stay within them for 15 minutes. What's a rift portal? Who the hell knows? But I'll tell you what, it seems like there could be something cool at the other end of a rift portal, so I'm interested. Now, you get reputation with this faction by turning in relic fragments from rares, treasures, and creatures. But you know what? Certainly cool that it would seem like most of what you'd actually do in the zone can feed into your progression. But look, Blizzard noted that more changes will actually be coming in the following weeks, so I assume this is very early, and, we're not going to go super deep into it right now because of that. Now, that said, we did mention the conduit upgrades and the sockets. Well, turns out there might actually be another source. So next, it turns out that socket upgrades and conduits can drop from Torghast's Adamant Vaults. Now, Adamant Vaults are basically the final 2 floors that you can unlock if you get a 5-gem run and have purchased the Adamant Vaults overall Torghast upgrade from the box of many things. Now, they just happen as drops, right? The socket and conduit upgrades. And those drops do seem to be rare. 2 players got in contact with Wowhead, and like nobody in our team, nobody, I've only done 1 Adamant Vault, Dakor's done a few, I think Matt's done a few. None of us got the drops. Wowhead's team didn't get the drops, but 2 players did, and they let Wowhead know. So it seems like the drop rate is relatively rare. And overall, it's hard to know how intended this is because Blizzard haven't actually communicated their intent. And honestly, it's strange. So look, between Soul Ash and Soul Cinders, and now this, I think it's very clear that Blizzard actually want... Okay, let's put it this way. They want, like, Preach to be doing Torghast all of the time as a part of his raiding gameplay. You know? They want people who are really into Mythic Plus keys to be doing this Torghast as a part of their Mythic Plus gameplay, because that's how they're going to get their Legos and now a few other upgrades. Same for the PvPers, right? Now, from my perspective, and what I really try to do with this channel is be a bit more of a voice for the casual players, you know? Or maybe just people who, like me, they want to get Heroic Curve, and then they want a big, rich Azeroth to explore when it's not raid night. Well, that's sort of the thing. It feels like with Torghast, rather than us going to it because of all of the cool, unique things about Torghast that make it cool and unique, instead it's like, well, I need to go there for my legendaries and some other upgrades. Now look, that certainly is a way to get people to do Torghast. It will produce good numbers. But I don't think it's a way to get people to do it who will like it. And that's really the thing here. I think that whatever Blizzard's internal Torghast player engagement metrics are, I think they're essentially a useless number in a world where the game is designed such that you're incentivized to go into Torghast as a way to power up the main end game activity that you really want to do, even if you don't necessarily like Torghast, which is why people are saying Torghast quite a lot. So I'll say this, look, more rewards, I'm totally down with that. You know, these things dropping from the Adamant Vaults, I mean, in principle, sure, but not in a world where you cannot earn, like, you know, conduit upgrade tokens by just doing the raid. So that's basically the thing. Stuff like this, I'm less into, and I would just love to see a Blizzard that has the confidence, right? The confidence to let their feature stand on their own merits. Because when I see stuff like this, when I see them make Torghast, but then basically have all of its rewards be extrinsic, I see insecurity. Well, guess what, everyone? It's time for even more reputation and vendory stuff, because the Death's Advanced Vendor has been updated, adding in a bunch of new mounts, pets, the new Covenant ensembles, a tabard, and Korthian armaments, which they're quite something, because they are item tokens for random item level 200 gear. They cost 1,000 Stygia each. They give eye level 200 gear, including armor, weapons, and accessories, with this gear slotting into the Maw Touch system that we mentioned before. And they're also bind on account, so if you have loads of Stygia in your main, you can buy a bunch of these tokens and fling them over to an alt. In principle, awesome. And while in a lot of ways this is a very welcome thing, it's just 1 token for every slot. So why are these tokens not being subdivided into each gear slot? You know, how such catch-up item tokens were implemented in the Warlords of Draenor and Legion expansions. Because it seems to me that, you know, look, if they're making it a slot machine, there's obviously a reason why. It's because they don't want you to just be able to get what you want. And I see stuff like this as just being an artificial way to extend these systems. And not one that is fun for players, you know? And it makes me kind of sad, because I think if this was like the, was it Benthic gear? But you know, where it was RNG tokens, but at least they were slot-based, I mean, then I think you'd be far more willing to engage with this as a player. You know, if I could target this a lot more, I'd actually feel okay getting a few thousand Stygia on my main, and then buying a bunch of tokens and sending them to an alt. But when there's this much randomness, I'm not going to feel great about that. Now this gear only has 6 upgrade levels baseline, and the rest can actually only be seen once you've unlocked the higher research tiers from the Archivist Codex, which is all of that stuff that we mentioned earlier. Now the gear starts at eye level 200, and I mean, look, much as I'd love to dive in, Blizzard sort of alluded to some changes coming, so I'm going to hold off, but certainly you can see I have a little bit of, criticism and stuff here, so I hope that this is advanced further. And it's not just a single RNG token for every single slot, but look, we'll see how it changes in PTR. Next then, we've got some updates to what our Renown is going to get us over the patch. And, well, look, the Night Fae mount is shockingly cute, and I really like it. So, yeah, there's that. Right, overall, there is an anima increase, though, at Renown level 47. It will increase the amount of anima received from elite world quests, so that's kind of interesting. And the same for the Oribos weeklies and, for like dungeons and PvP, but at Renown 73. So that's actually 2 pretty big Renown increases. Now, since those 2 sources are not sources that get a buff from the achievement stuff that we already know about, this should help the anima come in a bit more smoothly. So that is quite nice. And between these upgrades and the amazing speed boost that flying is going to be, I mean, man, your anima grind is going to be a lot less grindy. Also, new cosmetic rewards. So at both 45 and 70, each Covenant gets a new mount. It's flying mounts. They look really awesome. I love the Kyrian one. I really, really love the Night Fae one because I'm just a sucker for anything that uses that, like sort of flying like serpent dragon kit. Then at 60 and 77, new armor tints are unlocked. Now, these are the mounts and transmog sets that we saw crop up a few weeks ago. They're really nice, so that is good stuff to get, and I suppose in a world where anima is flowing a little bit more, perhaps you're going to feel more, able to get these in a reasonable fashion. Now, as expected, then the World Quest item levels will continue to scale up as your Renown increases, with there being unlocks at 46, 61, and 75. So, for Renown, it's all that, plus the usual soul binds and stuff. We have a lot more information on the Shards of Domination, which are the new gems and sockets from the raid. They're a bit more fleshed out. This is a new system in the game, and guess what? I'm not going to be slapping it about the place. I really like it. Haha, there's a surprise for you. I like it. It's cool, right? It's a bit of a cute callback to the original Death Knight runes, where there are actually 3 types of gems: Blood, Frost, and Unholy. Now, these gems go into domination sockets, and these domination sockets are on specific item drops from the raid. No RNG, right? If you get the thing, you get the thing. Happy days. The amount of sockets per item, it then increases as you fight the later bosses. So basically there should be this kind of natural feeling progression of more sockets for most players as they move through the raid. Now apparently we should be looking at around 5 sockets by the time we are fully geared up. So that's 5 sort of different ways to customize my character, right? And actually from the content that I'm doing. This is what I want to see from systems in WoW, right? Not big, overarching, expansive things, just nice little things for me to interface with while I'm going along my regular content. I'm not going to have to grind anything out for this or pay it any extra mind. It's just a nice addition to my raiding character, like progression experience, and that's why I like it so much. Now, a few of these domination gems have been data mined so far, and it appears that each type has a gem with an effect designed for each role, and these effects are active across the whole game. And it actually looks like mixing and matching basically is the gameplay here, because if you equip 3 of the same type, so say 3 frost gems, then you'll actually be granted a bonus, and that bonus is called a rune word. And the rune word is only active within the Maw, Korthia, Torghast, and the raid. So that's how they kind of give you that like additional power within the raid, but in a way where it doesn't disrupt the Mythic Plus and PvP players. So overall, look, I think this is awesome. I really do. Accessing, more shards and more sockets as the weeks go on. I think it's just one of those things. It could be a minor but fun element of gearing. You've got some nice mix and match gameplay with the various different types, some nice little decisions to make, and importantly, I don't have to go and grind soul ash for this, like I have to do for the you'd have to do for the legendaries. It's like you do your raiding, and this is just more cool things you get from your raiding and more cool character customization. I really hope this actually succeeds in game, because I would love to see Blizzard get good numbers from this and have the confidence to do things like this in the future. Now, a quick note from, my raid leader and also mythic raider Dakor, who's freelances on our team. He said you can actually prepare for this now because you can check the loot tables for items that will have sockets on them, and then you can think about your current legendary slots on your character. That was a really good point he made. So say if you have legendary shoulders right now, but a shoulder piece from the raid has got a few sockets, then maybe you'll want to prep ahead of time to craft that legendary effect, but on another slot. Of course, wait until the patch to actually commit to that expenditure of resources, because who knows what Lego is actually going to be BLIZZ. But hey, there you go. Tips from Dakor. It's a pretty cool thing that's happened now that he's joined the team. Now, Dakor is a paladin, as is Matt in our team, and I'm sure that duo will be happy to see that Holy Paladin has been nerfed. I mean, they deserved it, right? Without going into specifics, their damage is down by just over 8%. Crusader Strike costs more mana and refunds less Holy Shock cooldown. Now, they get Holy Power instead of extra healing whenever they use Infusion of Light procs on Holy Light, and then Flash of Light actually got a substantial buff to sort of help you out for those oh shit moments, given the other changes that have taken place. It's not a huge nerf, but they definitely will feel it. That said, I think Holy Paladins will be the first to admit that they have been a bit overtuned this patch. So, Tazavesh is actually out now on the PTR, and it's really bloody cool. There is a portal room, so getting around it is kind of nice and easy. There's an auction house NPC and a mailbox NPC that unlock after killing specific bosses, which is a nice bit of sort of theme. And just the whole place is full of fun. There is a trading puzzle, there is a musical instrument boss, fish sticks and murlocs, there's some neat geometry puzzles, and a bunch of other things. And basically, from all that I've seen of the footage and people in our team, I cannot wait to actually just give this a good go with the guild when it is live, especially in those hard modes, and especially with the knowledge that we've got this awesome new dungeon, and if I do it in the hard modes, that means more item level in the gear that I get, and then I can, upgrade that with Valor. Great! Yes, Tazavesh, awesome. I'm happy. Okay, raid time, because there's awesome Sanctum of Domination stuff. Now, while my guild does not do PTR raid testing, we are a heroic curve on live sort of raiding guild. We're a lot more chill 2 nights a week. Our raid leader, though, Dakor, does raid Mythic with his more full-time guild. Dude plays a lot of WoW. Now, to cut his notes down substantially, he's done raid testing in PTR, and then he just comes back to the rest of us, and he's getting us all very excited. And you're looking at his footage right now. So Kel'Thuzad is just an awesome throwback to the older KT fights, but it's got a lot of stuff, and he says quite the mechanically involved fight. In fact, there's that. Limit Max also tweeted after his initial testing of KT that, this is one of the best penultimate bosses, right? This is exciting. And it's KT. They're actually doing him justice. So I'm happy with that. Then there's Soul Render Dorzemain, who is also reminiscent of Nax with a pretty interesting mechanic that is a bit like the Safety Dance, but faster. Then the Fate Scribe boss. It's going to be the Pug Killer for this tier, taken to a rather new extreme, because players have to rotate rings to align runes in a correct slot within 30 seconds, or they die. Oh, it's going to be funny on LFR. Then there's also some fun lore-related dialogue, like, gods fall at a turn of a key. I don't know, is the Lord of Ravens going to turn it? Who's going to turn it? Who's the gods that are going to fall? Hopefully it's better than Godfall, the video game. I think we could almost get a full video out of that line. But right now, look, what you guys need to know is that Tazavesh is shaping up awesomely. This new raid is shaping up awesomely. And if you, like me, can avoid the shitty parts of World of Warcraft, like grinding your soul ashes and cinders, farming up your conduits. If you can avoid those things and just do the awesome content, it seems like we're in for a real treat. And that, I mean, look, you guys, it's got a smile on my face. Okay, next up, we would be amiss if we did not blast through the interview with Salute and Morgan Day from the Warcraft team. 'Twas not as spicy as Ian's with Preach, but there was a lot more stuff to talk about, actually. And I think the main lesson there is, I think Ian does himself and the WoW team no favors with the explanation of philosophies, because it ultimately comes down to, yeah, your philosophy is all fine and academic, but it feels shit, so I don't care about your response. Whereas this one felt, you know, a little bit less rigorously prepared, but just a lot more, I don't know, a lot more, like, real, I guess. So even though there was disappointing answers in some cases, it, like, wasn't as deeply frustrating. So, I mean, there were frustrating elements, but anyway. Look, so he said that Torghast is missing quite a bit on the PTR, and that they are aware of some of the torments being too negative, and also the Tower Knowledge will have a rolling cap each week, like with Valor. So that's interesting to me. I sort of disagree, but I suppose in a world where they've decided that Torghast has actually got to be a core part of player power progression, then they feel like they have to time gate those things, which makes me sad, because in my view, it is basically just, you know, it's basically just taking a knife and jamming it in the Achilles heel of Torghast. Anyway, he also said that Covenant legendaries will be unlocked via Renown at around Renown level 46, and the Twisting Corridors will see no major upgrades until a later patch. Cool! Why do it in the first place? Why make Torghast in the first place if this whole thing is just going to be, yeah, you know, it'll be shite when it launches, it'll be a bit less shite 8 months later, or whatever the patch comes out, and, you know, then maybe by the final patch, we will have it being vaguely reasonable. Come on, accept reality and deal with it. See problems earlier, because we could all see these problems very early. I think there's no excuse for the World of Warcraft development team to not see those problems early. And as I've covered, I am basically through with all the paid beta test stuff and us paying for features that are, you know, they're a 10th baked. They're not even half baked. He also said that patch 9.1.5 is the kind of patch wherein we could see systems changes like leveling via Torghast, and the things like 9.1 are more patches, you know, for content and stuff. To which I say, yeah, but that actually means literally nothing to me as a player. It would be better if leveling in Torghast could happen now. If common sense fixes and changes could happen now. And I know that that's generically true, and that game development takes time, but I do think that in the grand scheme of things, the World of Warcraft development team is shockingly, frighteningly not that agile, right? I mean, there's a bunch of things coming even in the new patch that probably could be hotfixed in now and would feel good, but they're just held back. So, you know, leveling up in Torghast, you know, I'm all good for there being more options there, but again, too late. Too late. Needs to be there earlier. Next up, there was apparently too many BOEs in Nathria, so there will be only 2 or 3 instead of 4 slots, and they'll have a lower drop chance. So I think that's really changes that impact a lot of people that are quite a decent part, actually, because of the Mythic raiding community, which seems like an odd way to do it for me. Weapon tokens, well, that's weird. I think they were universally liked by players. It turns out Blizzard actually didn't do weapon tokens because they thought that it would be a good way to give you weapons. Which is odd. I thought that's why they did it. No, they actually did it because they felt that the fantasy of Covenant-themed weapons dropping from raid bosses wouldn't make sense. Now, of course, as players, what we got was a loot system that was just really quite nice to operate in. I mean, you just think of all the benefits the tokens brought us. But not in Sanctum of Domination. Sanctum of Domination has got weapon drops spread across the entire raid, including uneven coverage at the higher item level of the final 2 bosses, which means that some classes win out, others lose out. And this kind of sucks. Look, the tokens seemed extremely well received, and I'm going to have to disagree with Morgan on a bunch of things there. I mean, The classes who are lucky enough to have weapons on the last 2 bosses with higher item levels, I mean, they can rejoice, sure, they've got a cool reward to gun for, but kind of too bad for everybody else. And it's so weird. Morgan said that not all mythic guilds can clear the last bosses, and that people unable to get the higher item level weapons would feel left out, which is insane to me because it's mythic. Like, it was just really weird. I mean, they seemed genuinely surprised whenever Sloot said, like, well, why not have, like, an upgrade item or, you know, the weapons just being all covered at the last 2 bosses? And they were like, oh, that's an interesting thought. And I think Sloot was like, well, you already did that with Castle Nathria via the weapon tokens. And somehow they didn't realize that that's what the weapon tokens were actually doing. So the whole thing just left me a little bit confused. I wish, honestly, they sort of alluded to wanting to change things, you know, change things up to keep it fresh. Honestly, I would just say find a raid loot system that works and just kind of stick with it. And then for your change between raid tiers, you know, do little things like domination gems. Anyway. Weird, but let's go on. Keystone trading then, that is something that they discussed, and Morgan said that they are actually in the team discussing how to let people choose their keystone. And apparently with the new Mythic Plus scoring system, not being able to get a specific key could be an issue for those wanting to up their score, because of course your score is going to be a blend of what you've done and all the different things. Now this has always been a bit of a problem, but now it's Blizzard's problem to solve because it impacts their scoring system. I think hopes here from the M+ community are quite high. Maybe we'll see this in a 9.1.5 or a 9.2. You know, as is the theme for commonly liked things that people would want. We also have got news of a rapid Renown catch-up coming up to Renown level 40 in 9.1. We've got some great vault changes, so, PvPers will see less jewelry. No mini raids for this expansion, and some musings about asking the community earlier for ideas for patches. And I actually think that that would be a great move. And I actually as well think that Morgan's like just a really nice, decent guy to talk to. Like, I've interviewed him, I think, twice now. I really like the guy. And, I think he'd be a great guy for these discussions, you know, to be happening with. And, you know, internally at Blizzard, like, I do know there is at least for some people, there is like a little bit of a will to get out there a little more to, you know, actually sort of solve some of these things. But, you know, my understanding is that Blizzard in many ways is a very old hierarchical company. And I think that actually causes a bunch of roadblocks for them. It loses them the agility they need to actually feel like they are, you know, in line with their community sometimes. So I think anything that would help us in that regard would be incredible. I think it's absolutely what the game needs. And I think it's that sort of feedback and like decision-making apparatus that is what is required for World of Warcraft to have long-term consistent success, because we cannot have all these situations of basically the developers doing misfires, often because they seem not really in alignment with their players. So all in all, look, this was a pretty decent interview. You know, some of it did just boil down to Mr. Sloot asking some questions and then getting bad news as a raider and kind of grimacing internally, it seemed. Look, I think Blizzard's interview game, just how they do some of these things, that just needs a little bit of work. And moreover, I think too, we need interviews that can speak to non-end game issues, because, come on, there's more than just rating and stuff. And look, I know the PvPers want their interview as well. They should get their interview, right? Let's do that. But also, you know, for a bunch of the rest of us who are not, you know, playing World of Warcraft with our G Fuel and our esports jersey, you know, we actually got into this because we loved Azeroth, the escapism, the world, the fantasy, and I feel like more interviews there that actually cover the casual gameplay experience, so not lore as much as having a chat with Steve is always great fun. You know, I think that's what we need. So if I was to have any tips or pointers, it would be that. Next then, 2 new Blizzard books have made appearances via Amazon and its preview pages. So, the Grimoire of the Shadowlands and Beyond has got some teaser pages. And these teaser pages are interesting. They offer some musings from the broker who actually, you know, wrote the book. I think it might have been Steve Denuser. But canonically, it was a broker. Actually, it might not be Steve. I think it's Steve anyway. But this book is, it's got some interesting things. So the Winter Queen, where the broker logically assumes that she has a counterpart that may be a part of a pantheon of life. you know, an adventurer source told our broker character that the Winter Queen referred to a certain lifebound entity as her sister. So more loon teases. By the way, if you want the skinny in a loon, you can check out the video we published 2 days ago. And also, they sort of tease the Lifelands as well. I mean, hey, I said that stuff months ago, so there's a Lifelands, and probably there's big characters in it. I'd actually say the art in this book's really just looks really nice and, you know, flavorful and fun, so that'll be exciting to get into. There's then another book called Folks and Fairy Tales, and it's got a potential revelation about Sylvanas. Sylvanas we fight actually might not be all of Sylvanas, the Ranger General. I hope they don't mess this one up. There's a short story involving Verisa Windrunner, right? Where in a dream, she journeys to the Maw and she finds fragments of Sylvanas' soul, first appearing as a trout and then as herself, pre-undeath. Now, upon confronting the jailer in this dream, it is confirmed that it's just a fragment of the soul. But that's got some pretty big implications on Sylvanas' story. I mean, right now we know that there's Bellular, the Uther we've got, and then there's like another shade of Uther somewhere because of the thing from the cinematic. So, man, and like Sylvanas' change in attitude and aggression after her, you know, suicide in Edge of Night, could that be attributed to her just missing a part of her soul? Maybe the jailer's holding onto that too. Maybe that's being used to hold power over her. Maybe we'll do a lore video. And also, Folks and Fairy Tales has got a section on why Chromie takes a female form, despite her name Chronormu being one that fits within the naming nomenclature of typically male dragons, where she quite simply says that it suits me. And it's, I mean, there you go. Says that, has a big hug with Kalik, all happy, feel good. Sort of moment. Now, Chromie's identity is something that's actually canonically rather funny as we go back in time, because it appears that her naming convention following those of the male dragons, that was given to her by a writer who was unaware of those naming conventions, and that she was originally intended to be female in the first place. But in Heroes of the Storm, one of her voice lines is saying that Chronormu is actually not a male name. However, then in this book, Blizzard have actually created some new lore, I suppose, for dragon society culture. It's neat enough, where she is basically, Chromie is addressed as male until Visage Day, and Visage Day is like a ceremony wherein dragons choose the mortal form that means the most to them. And that's the form, like that's a fairly major impactful decision, because it's not like dragons, they, you know, flit and change forms as they choose for convenience. It seems like a dragon form is really something that is like truly deeply meaningful to that dragon, right? So it's like, I guess, a really, really important, you could almost say like a coming of age thing for the dragons. And she decides that, yeah, being Chromie, taking on the form of a female gnome, that is what suits her better. So hey, happy, fair play. There was drama in this, which seems a bit needless, really. It all seems reasonable to me, and I think it's a nice bit of dragon lore, so I like it. Now, this book also may have revealed that the Tauren's Earth Mother has in fact been Freya the whole time, that Zadormi is more than just a game mechanic, and a whole lot more. So, suffice to say, that's more stuff I'm excited for. And really, that is it for the WoW news. A lot of it, a metric ton of it to get through, and I bet that this news will only get faster and faster as patch 9.1 approaches, and of course the TBC pre-patch hits next week. So that's it for me. If you'd like to support the show and get some cool things, like of course the Glaive, then you can check out our Patreon, and look, other than that, have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.